Hello everyone, how's it going? Welcome back aboard the Bonnie Rackham. We are now on to Season 3, Episode 3. Pretty much as usual, just ready to get straight into this. So yeah, let's get things started with a title.
Get us underway.
So yeah, I've decided to call this one Doldrums. And yeah, Doldrums is an equilateral region of the Atlantic Ocean with calms, sudden storms and light, unpredictable winds. And it also means a state or period of stagnation or depression. So yeah, a very self-explanatory title that just covers a lot of this episode. So yeah, let's get a little brief summary and a rating sorted.
First item.
Okay, so this one is written by Jonathan E. Steinberg and Dan Schultz. And this one is directed by Stefan Schwartz. He's back in the director's chair a second time, his last one being Season 2, Episode 3. So yeah, that sense that something's coming, changes are about to happen, begin to take form in this episode. Max and Anne make the exchange, and on learning civilization is approaching faster than they thought, they end up saying their goodbyes, while Jack, Vane and Teach begin organising a defence. With Eleanor's help, an address is drawn up by Woods-Rogers with an offer too good for your everyday pirate to resist. Our guys can only watch helpless while everyone turns tail on the beach in front of them. Meanwhile, our Walrus crew strength is being tested on becalmed waters. Hunger and madness seeping in. Will Flint and Silver's feuding be the end of them all? This is another great episode with so many great moving parts. It's not quite as strong as previous episodes for me, but only by a margin. We're definitely still in the 9s rating wise. I'm just going to nudge it back a little bit to a 9.2 this one. Okay, so yeah, let's get into those character deep dives and discussions. There's a lot to go through, hence why I'm kind of rushing through this first bit a bit. So yeah, let's get into these deep dives.
Next item.
So yeah, I'm going to start with Walrus crew today because they're kind of separate from just everything else going on in and around kind of Nassau. Okay, so we begin with day 12 and we're in Doldrums. Nearly 2 weeks stuck on a ship in the middle of the ocean with no food, no supplies, hardly at all. Fresh water running out, it's not looking good. The makeup and effects on these scenes are just hauntingly phenomenal. And from interviews I've seen and little bits I've heard, the cast literally went all in, you know, going on a crash fast pretty much for a couple of weeks prior. Luke Arnold especially, he looks like he dropped a lot of weight. So yeah, the mood is obviously somber. In the captain's cabin, Flint, Silver and Billy trying to work out where they're at. Flint is not optimistic that they're going to come across land anytime soon, so they're going to have to cut the men's rations again. A lot of really tough moral choices this episode, one that you can't help but play along with at home. Flint really making some tough executive decisions as captain in this one. The first being here. Yeah, Flint says he wants 2 lists. One with men critical to sailing the ship when the wind does return, and one with men who aren't. I hate that in this point of the show, I'm sort of reasoning and sort of agreeing with him here. I mean, it's brutal, it's awful, don't get me wrong, but considering the dire situation, it also makes a little bit of sense where he's kind of coming from. Hardly any safe water left to drink, no food for days. You know, and I think they have I don't know, what was it, a 25-man crew maybe? You've got to make some tough decisions, haven't you, with this sort of stuff. But yeah, Silver says, you think we should feed some of the men more than others? To which Flint simply replies, no, I think we should feed some of the men and not the others. Damn, you know, again, although he's speaking so coldly about the odds of, you know, of their chance for survival, you can somewhat understand the logic in this dire situation. It does make sense what he's sort of saying. It's just the way Flint says it. Yeah, but Silver and Billy are obviously clearly shocked. Silver thinks it's a bad idea to divide the men like that. Also, yeah, a very good point. We know that divide does end up leading to a situation. Silver looks Flint in the eye and says he will challenge him with the men and resist this plan. And yeah, Flint sort of gets up and he says if he does, he will be forced to inform the men of how they landed in this state in the first place. Damn, that's pretty cold of Flint. Flint basically saying, not now, not in this state. He asserts that as captain in a life-threatening situation, it's his right to have complete control. So yeah, Silver has been demoted, it would seem. Things are not going well, and this bond that they've sort of been building looks like it's fraying at a time when they need it to be at its strongest. When Silver leaves angry, Flint remarks to Billy they need to keep a close eye on him. Remarks that when dehydration really kicks in, they're all going to be subject to its effects. Loss of reason, anger, and hallucinations. Yeah, Flint says that in a very familiar way. We've already seen his sort of hallucinations anyway, and under these conditions, we're going to see still having more. But Billy defends Silver, says he's been concerned about Flint for a long time, even before all this. And, you know, he wonders if all that's happened has driven him mad. And yeah, we can't help but wonder the same at this point. So yeah, we just cut to day 18. A few piddly eels have been caught and we see Silver sort of gutting them out. This is where we really see the hunger on everybody's faces and just their physique. Yeah, really well done here by makeup and just the cast. Going all in. But yeah, Billy comes to check on him and he's heard Silver has refused his water ration last couple of days. Billy says the men are counting on him to be able to stand up to the captain when the time comes. So yeah, Silver is very much the men the crew are relying on here, not Flint. Silver really contemplating it all in this state. Some of what he says is making sense, but the hunger, you know, that sort of paranoia that Flint just talked about, it's really got his mind working overtime in regards to Flint and opposing him. You know, he really just thinks Flint's out to get him sort of here. Yeah, he says that's been the problem from the start. Something Gates never understood, or Billy himself. He says you cannot decide to follow a man like that and pick and choose when you deny him. Basically, yeah, you've either got to go all in with a man like Flint and just commit to the madness almost, or make your move against him when it, you know, which it sort of seems like Silver is contemplating here. Yeah, we can see this situation is really getting to him, and as I say, he's just focusing it all in on Flint. You know, they haven't got their clear minds basically at the moment. Billy can see it as well, and he tells him sternly to take his rations. Knows they don't need Captain and Quartermaster both losing their heads right now. And Silver says he's clear-headed. He sees him. He mentions how Flint pondered over how he could be seen as the villain in the Fort Saga with Vane, and now he's the greatest villain in the New World. Says that he thinks it's torture for him, and the only way that he can imagine it stopping is when there are none of them left to witness it. His musings are interrupted when there's a commotion above deck, but yeah, some interesting thoughts Silver has there on Flint. There's definitely accuracy in there for sure, so there'd definitely be more discussions to have in, you know, in that sort of area. So yeah, the next one, a tough scene. Someone's been at the rations because, you know, they're starving men. Two men stand accused. Silver starts the proceedings. Everyone's there out on deck, including Flint. Both men, you know, they start to plead their own cases. No one's confessing. It's clear if they let it, this would just go on and on and on with just no resolution. Silver pauses. Is he pausing because he's hesitating from doing the very thing that Flint's about to? Because he doesn't like that he thought of it without prompt, or he knows it's what Flint expects of him, and, you know, it's what Flint's about to do if he doesn't. So he's just sort of frozen up in the moment. Could be a few things going on with Silver there. But yeah, Flint, he steps forward very calmly, very coldly, and he just silently shoots one of them, you know, one of these two guys. While the surviving guy, you know, is sort of thanking him, thank you for believing me. Flint is just reloading, and it is the slowest reload. It's so, like, when the guy realises, it is intense. Billy tries to get Silver to say something while he's doing this really slow reload, but John is just silent. He knows he has to finish it. Hard for him to know what the best thing to say, you know, in the moment is. But again, maybe he knows deep down, like I say, this would be the end result anyway. As Flint aims the pistol at the guy, it's Miranda's face that he sees, and she says, "Forgive me." And after what, again, seems like an eternity, he just fires, you know, bang. Another guy dead, cold. And then, yeah, he just says, I don't even have the words to describe how Toby Stephens delivers this. It's just so powerful. Like, he just says, does everyone understand? Does anyone have anything to say? Yeah, damn, the moral lines on this one is blurred in regards to just how Flint is behaving. But yeah, Flint says to Silver as he leaves, if you're not strong enough to do what needs to be done, then I'll do it for you. Just absolute desperation on this ship. And again, those tough, brutal calls that Flint is making are awful, But again, you have to take it logically. A couple of days from death, surely. Brutal as it is, you know, 2 guys threatening everyone's survival. You know, they don't have the strength, mental or physical, for a thorough investigation, which was what, you know, would happen otherwise. In doing what he does, Flint does at least ensure no one will do it again. But yeah, calm and nonchalant as it looked, we see once alone, everything is taking its toll on Flint. Yeah, and obviously what follows, just again, just outstanding bit of acting. How Toby Stephens never got an Emmy is mad. Yeah, he should have been right up there with Bryan Cranston as Walter White for me, you know, season after season, award after award. But yeah, we see him retreat to his cabin, lock the door, and he just breaks down, just absolute collapse. You know, clearly just a mix of emotions just all coming out at once. Miranda, what he's just had to do, their hopeless situation. Just, yeah, all of it just seemingly comes out in a moment of sheer desperation. So, yeah, a little bit later, and Billy and Silver are, you know, they're kind of going over it all again. And Billy is not impressed, you know, with how Flint handled that, which is understanding. Says to Silver he suggests he gets the situation under control before he takes matters into his own hands. Billy says Gates figured it out, Miranda figured it out. You know, he listened to them, so it is possible. And Billy continues, you know, only problem is he saw them as his equal. He respected them, so was willing to listen. Not always, but for the most part. Yeah, says Silver needs to find a way to do the same. And yeah, Silver makes a very good point that they both ended up dead. I love how simple getting in Flint's ear and becoming his trusted ally Billy makes it sound. But yeah, Silver knows it's no easy task, or one he particularly wants due to death of the previous occupants, like he says. But it's given him food for thought in this desperate situation when risk, you know, a big risk is all you have left, really, because, you know, the gamble's there. What have you got to lose in this situation? And then we time jump again to day 21. It's eerily quiet. Most people are sleeping or, you know, dying, pretty much. Flint himself is just dozing, no energy, you know, he's slumped on deck. And we jump into a vision. My God, the lighting and framing on this scene. You know, it's great to see Louise Barnes coming back to be able to do a bit more than just play a corpse. Yeah, Miranda, she's back in all her finery. Not sure where they're supposed to be. It might be Nassau. But Flint joins her on the staircase. Amazing dialogue and Flint and Miranda relationship sort of insight as Flint reads it. To me, you know, a very non-spiritual person, I read this as this is all in Flint's mind, you know, an internal sort of dialogue. Conversation he'd have with her, you know, in the moment if he could. What he imagines she might say to him. You know, that sort of thing. So yeah, he says when he lost Thomas, he raged. He was distraught. He wept. But he says, with you, I am ruined over you. God damn it, Flint. I felt that. The shot where they're sort of opposite each other, but, you know, they're not quite, not directly. Oh, it's so good. One of my favourites. Miranda says, I was mistress to you when you needed love. I was wife when you needed understanding. But first and before all, I was mother. Yeah, this is Flint's understanding just how important Miranda was to him. Bit of guilt maybe that first season especially he wasn't always great or particularly loving to her. Maybe realising he took her for granted a little bit, you know, and realising just how much he sort of misses her here. And Vision Miranda continues, says, I have loved you like no other, so I have known you like no other. I will guide you through it all, but at its end is where you must leave me, where you will find peace that eludes you, and lies the answer you refuse to see. Flint's vision, Miranda, being very cryptic and mysterious. And yeah, it's a great snap back to reality, and Flint just staring into the camera. You know, another great shot. He's sure his end is coming up soon. We see what he's looking at, and it's that haunting vision of death again. All in black, this time out on deck, you know, pretty much ready. Coming for him. I'm pretty sure we get at least one more final episode with Vision Miranda where it sort of comes full circle, so can come back to that then, and, you know, with all my final thoughts on that, because I haven't quite got a final what it all means kind of thoughts yet. Yeah, really great scene, that one. I really like these Vision ones. So yeah, Billy and Silver alert him to a whale carcass that's been spotted. DeGroot isn't hopeful. They only float after they rot, so thinks it's pointless. Because, you know, they obviously can't be eating rotten meat. But Silver orders to make ready the launch anyway, with Flint, the only other man who's had full rations recently, to join him. Okay, yeah, classic Black Cell scene coming up. So yeah, Silver has taken Billy's advice, and he just lays the whole truth out to Flint as they're rowing towards the dead whale in their little boat, as a last resort to try and get a better bond with him. He just tells him all of it, all his part in the Urca scheme. And yeah, Flint's reaction is really hard to read. A lot going on his face, and obviously due to the situation, it's hard to know what a full strength Flint, if a full strength Flint would react the same way. But this sort of Flint here, there's almost a bit of, I don't know if fear is the right word on his face, but a sort of, I've underestimated this guy big time. Sort of reaction, as well as the fact, that Silver is behind him. He's making a confession, a wary one. He's ready to kill Flint for his own survival, it's safe to say, should Flint go on the attack. So I think Flint would be wary of all that as well. But yeah, Flint asks him why is he telling him now. And Silver says so he can decide, once and for all. Fight him, kill him, or acknowledge the fact that they'd be better off as partners instead of rivals. Again, it's hard to read exactly what's going on here with Flint, and I think they do get into it a little bit on the island, just a bit more in-depth conversation sort of about this stuff. But yeah, there's a long silence where just Silvers and we are not sure what Flint's about to do. Flint asks him what did he do with his share, and he sort of says he forgo his claim because he saw no way to hold on to it and remain a part of the crew. And he says without these men, all he is an invalid. And yeah, he says that really sadly, kind of going back to last episode and his fears and his frustrations about his new situation that he spoke with to Muldoon about. But yeah, so there's no answer from Flint, and after what seems like an eternity, he just silently starts rowing once more, and so does Silver. Yeah, a very brave and smart move by Silver, already another risk in going out to venture, to check on this seemingly hopeless situation. And we'll see in a moment, he comes up with a smart plan to sort of get them a bit of food. So yeah, Silver, for taking some big risks this episode, has got himself a well-earned MVP nomination. So yeah, they reach the well, and yeah, it's useless. It seems they've wasted their energy, their time. But Silver has an idea. He's not ready to give up hope yet. Seems not everyone is so fussy with rotting food. He slams the oar into their boat, a couple of times, sort of confusing Flint a little bit. But then they feel something collide with them. We can eat those, Silver says when they spot the sharks gathering around. Yeah, this is just a great scene, isn't it? So hype. Watching these two guys finally catch a win after seeing all they've been through the last couple of episodes. And see them working together again after all that's happened. It's just such a fun kind of go on kind of scene with the music and the action. It's desperate and it's frantic, but after a bit of chase on the seas, they finally get the shark on the boat and kind of beat it desperately to death. And yeah, wish we could have got a little cut, to the crew watching this go down, because I bet they were really hyped as well, if they could see it. And yeah, so after they kill it, a newly revived Flint just says, again, yeah, scene of the episode for me. Both the parts really, the confession and this part. Yeah, just fantastic stuff with these two. So yeah, cut to everyone finally getting their fill, finally getting some food. We really see how gaunt Silver is looking because he's got his shirt off. But yeah, Billy asks him what happened, and Silver just simply says, progress. Billy says, how do you know for sure? And Silver just says, because I'm alive, I suppose. At that point, they get a bit of wind, and they could finally make some leeway. Things finally turning in their favour when they need it the most. While the timing on Nassau right now really isn't going great, the timing was on their side here, finally. Sure, the wind would have still blown in that moment, but without that much needed energy refuel for everyone, would it have mattered? Would they have survived? Silver and Flint would have still been at bigger odds, big odds. While Flint's journey this episode is noteworthy, it's not quite MVP worthy today for me. I think without Billy being a middleman for the most part and just keeping Silver on the right side of sane, and for a good pep talk, he is also going to pick up an MVP nomination. So yeah, sometime later, a few days I assume, rested, fed, they finally make land. A lovely looking island. But yeah, we see they are not alone and they have been spotted. And yeah, we will of course get into all of that and some more big new players next episode. Okay, that felt like a lot with those guys. So yeah, let's check in first with Eleanor and Woods-Rogers. So yeah, not too much to really deepen with these guys this episode, but important sort of plot progress to briefly kind of go over. So yeah, a great shot of Woods-Rogers' fleet, you know, on the seas. And yeah, he tells Eleanor that they're about a fortnight from Nassau, and he hands her a piece of paper with the message he has for the residents of Nassau. Knows he only has a few hours window once he arrives to get it right. And, you know, it means a lot for Nassau's future. Basically, this note is he's inviting them all for a king's pardon and join his efforts to restore law, order and commerce to New Providence Island. You know, that's it. That's exactly what Thomas and James talked about. You know, what Flint and Eleanor talked about, what they've been driving for all this time so far. But as we'll see in a moment, you know, Woods-Rogers, he is against time, and Eleanor is sceptical of his peaceful approach straight away. Hornigold's told him that without Flint, no one is left capable of organising a defence of the bay. And Eleanor agrees on the organised part, says Flint was the best and most capable in organisation, but there will be something in terms of a defence. You know, he won't be going up there and expecting nothing. Yeah, he wants Eleanor's help in editing the address to win them people's faith without retaliation, because Chamberlain is promising one if there's any resistance. And Eleanor asks, you know, how sure are you that the beach being stormed would be such a bad thing? Yeah, really looking like Eleanor is just turning her back on everything, on everyone on Nassau. I'm not sure if she's testing the waters here a bit and trying to get a bit more of a feel for Woods-Rogers, or if she generally would nonchalantly watch Nassau overtaken like this at this point by this pretty much stranger to her. She says you wouldn't need their trust if they were either dead or terrified of you. It makes sense, and you'd think, yeah, why isn't he taking this approach? But we see there's a bit more to it than that. And yeah, you know, but yeah, damn, you know, with that sort of thought from Eleanor, maybe they are made for each other. And yeah, you know, she's asking a few quick fire questions. Like I say, she has worked out that he's sort of against the clock, and she's sort of pushing for an answer. So yeah, almost a little bit impressed with her, I think, you know, that she's kind of worked it out. He reveals why he's going for the peaceful approach instead of all guns blazing. You know, making me wonder, yeah, what approach would he take if he wasn't against the clock? But yeah, he says he's had to take loans from various parties. Most of them are fine, no pressure. But one party's patience he does not wish to test. A party whose history with pirates of Nassau suggests an extreme reaction would likely follow. And Eleanor works out it's Spain. She asks him what did he have to promise. And he answers her, you know, he says that he would seize Fort Nassau, secure the remains of the gold and return to Havana promptly. And he says a very interesting line, you know, failure to do so would confirm to them I am simply a pirate by another name. I mean, you said it, my guy. You said it. He says failure to do so would result in a Spanish army razing Nassau to the ground. I know that, you know, I know all that's a lot of info that I'd just rather leave out, but yeah, it's all important. It's all a lot of foreshadowing here. But yeah, he's got 8 weeks to get it done. So yeah, the pressure is definitely on, and Eleanor knows he's up against it, but it's in her interest to help. As much as she's on a revenge kick at the moment, I still don't believe she'd want to see the Spanish sack Nassau. I think she still wants to be a part of this, you know, utopia in the long run, but I don't think she's quite so bothered now with, you know, on former allies she may have to take down along the way. So yeah, sometime later now, and they are on Nassau. Obviously, events that have been going on there to be discussed in a moment to how we get to this place. But yeah, so the resistance is spotted, that they form up, and Eleanor has seen Teach's banner. I wonder if they did, at this point, plan to do the backstory that we get next season with Woods-Rogers and Teach. You know, possibly not, going by Woods-Rogers asking if she recognises any of the banners and not making any comment himself. Maybe he's playing coy, playing a bit dumb or whatever. But yeah, I get the sense they maybe hadn't come up with that backstory yet, or it possibly would have come up already, I think, in regards to Teach. Yeah, so they're back in the office now, and yeah, this Chamberlain guy, he's such an arrogant twat. But yeah, he's basically making the point, he can see no way that this is done peacefully. He really wants, you know, the riot. But Woods-Rogers says, you know, he will go to the beach to make the speech himself. But yeah, Chamberlain rules him out, you know, on going himself, says that he's been charged with his safety, and this isn't the safest option, they don't know him. And it's Eleanor that speaks up, says that it should be Hornigold that reads it. He's respected, has a lot of history with a lot of the men, and they'd listen, and more importantly, she says to Chamberlain, he doesn't give a shit if he dies in the process. So yeah, it's agreed. And yeah, we will get the conclusion of that from the other side in a moment. But yeah, not too much more to really go into with them both. But again, you know, like Eleanor, I do ponder how would Woods-Rogers be playing it if he wasn't against the clock? Would he still take this approach? Or would he use intimidation and violence like she suggests, you know, would be a more simpler solution? Where do his morals lie? Really, you know, very interesting character is Woods-Rogers. I don't care for him, but not in the Hornigold and Dufresne kind of indifference. Don't care for him, do you know what I mean? He's another great complex character with still so much to, you know, unveil. But yeah, the Spanish, like I say, are now a very real threat. Been brought up a couple of times here and there since right from the beginning, but yeah. Otherwise, Eleanor, yeah, it's tough. It's tough to defend her right now to find any kind of, yeah, it's just, you know, appearing very willing just to turn her back on it all. I will say, like most, I think she thinks Flint's dead. Probably to let go of that last little hope of the exact Nassau that they envisioned. So she sort of embraced Woods-Rogers as the best option now. But of course, like I've said a few times, she's a dog with a bone in terms of Vane and revenge, and that's all that's on her mind. But yeah, let's switch now to Nassau crew. We'll chat Max, and then by default Anne, and then Jack, Vane, and Teach, where Anne will pop up very briefly as well again. Okay, so yeah, Max and Anne, really, you know, some good Max scenes here. So we open with the trade, you know, it's late hours or very early hours, and the pearls are being counted by the Rex. Anne is not impressed with the men they're doing business with, you know, horrible guys, horrible civilized men. You know, she comments to Max on a point I've brought up a lot. She says, a world where he's the civilized one and we're the savages is a world I'm never going to understand. Yeah, that's the class system in a nutshell, Anne, unfortunately. Ain't it fun and fair? But yeah, after this guy has had his way with a couple of the girls from the brothel, you know, to keep him sweet, Max, again, she knows what she's doing with this sort of stuff. They discuss the trade, and Max, you know, she wants to check it's all above board with the books. She's just being very thorough. And yeah, this guy is awful. He's disgusting, you know. He's of the time. Yeah, you know, he racially insults Max, you know, and the fact that she's literate, which really pisses Anne off, you know, and she's not understanding yet, as she'll say in a bit, why Max will put up with it. But yeah, to do the trade, Max sort of knows she just has to grit her teeth and she just has to firm it in this situation, or nothing would ever get done in these sort of days, do you know what I mean? And again, we'll get into more of that with Max sort of thing. But so yeah, a deal was struck, and yeah, this creep goes further to say when the governor arrives, there is a place for her in his employ. Yeah, thanks, but no thanks, arsehole. But yeah, after a confused Max and Anne get a little bit more info, they realise time is really against them here. A governor is coming. So yeah, Max immediately warns Jack, but we will jump back to that scene because it makes sense right now just to stick with Max and Anne and go over their scene in the cave because it's a big scene. While we're still on Max. So yeah, Max and Anne, they're in the Rex. I think that's where they are. Sort of in a cave area. And Max has bought some scales to weigh out the pearls, you know, to divide between the three of them. Yeah, she's speaking, Max is speaking very matter of fact to Anne, you know. The conversation they've seemingly been putting off for so long, they just can't any longer now after what they've just heard. It's happening, you know, Max knows they will be parting ways soon. So yeah, Anne asks the question, you told me why I won't stay with you, but why won't, you know, she come with her? She wants to know if they lose this fight, you know, why is Max so intent on staying? You know, why would she want to live in a world where it says that man on the beach is to be respected? Fat pig, I think she calls him. And yeah, a really decent but really sad Max kind of insight here. And so yeah, maybe best we've had, you know, inside how she thinks and where she's come from sort of thing. Obviously we know she's been a slave, and she really sort of goes into it a bit more here. Yeah, we get a lot of info on her background. You know, as a young girl in the slave quarters, she would sneak out and watch the main house, watch the little girl inside, you know, who is white obviously. Poor Max, you know, she watched her live a happy, safe and clean life from the outside, taken care of by her father. My father, Max says sadly. Oh man, Max, you know, breaking my heart. But yeah, you know, I'm a Max defender till the end for this scene alone. The emotional damage that will do to you, you know, just that rejection. And, you know, that rejection to Eleanor's rejection way back in episode 2 sort of comes to mind immediately. And, you know, that really hits different after seeing this. Yeah, history is just, it's not a good time if you were a woman, if you were black, if you were queer. Max is all of those things. Max says the things to make that room possible, you know, that room she was looking in, took awful things. But inside that room, there was peace. That is what home is to her. You know, and she's understanding a little bit more where she's coming from now. Max continues, you know, when you and I began, you did not choose me. Something that lives inside you beyond choice made it so. Then says finally, sort of sadly, our roads are going to diverge. Let it be now, so we may not live in fear of it. But yeah, Anne's solo tear and her quiet, little resigned, yeah, you know, it always gets to me. Like, Max doesn't want to be on the outside looking in anymore. Jack and Anne, you know, they won't settle again somewhere new easily, she knows. But for Max, every time she has to start again, she has to start right from the bottom. You know, with prejudice and racism always as a first hurdle. She's already done some morally questionable things to, you know, get where she is. And we know she will do more to keep her place there. I won't be giving her quite such an easy time in a couple of episodes. And, you know, she will have to learn a big lesson about loyalty by the end of the show. But right now, her motives and reasoning make perfect sense with this new, you know, learning of this backstory. Obviously emotional, but understanding. Anne kisses her tenderly on the forehead. And she goes to leave, you know, and Max says, don't you want to see it shared out equally? To which Anne just says quietly, I trust you. The framing of this moment, my God. Wow, that's shot alone. Another painting. Another painting, please, if anyone can sort that. Thank you very much. Obviously, a lot going on with Anne and her confused emotions, but she, you know, Max has explained that very well, and there's not a lot you can really argue against it. It's sad, but it's inevitable. You know, it's something they've known that would have to happen one day. But yeah, as a big Max fan and a bigger Max and Anne shipper, this scene, it just really cuts deep, you know, from how far they've come, from last season, from the first season, you know, and in knowing that, in wanting to stay inside the comfort of this life, the deceit and betrayal Max will be privy to, and, you know, a big part of that in terms of Anne and Jack very soon. Yeah, Max has already got herself an MVP win this season, so she's sort of already been credited for all her actions for this sort of first third of the season. So I won't nominate her again. But yeah, great Max and in turn Anne's scene. Okay, so let's cut back and then we can go through our final guys, Jack, Vane, and a little bit of Teach. So yeah, it's just after the trade and Max fills in Jack, Vane and Featherstone in on this impending arrival. After a bit of to and fro, it's clear the fort still just won't be strong enough to defend against this fleet. They're talking strategy and possible allies for a while, all interesting stuff on a first watch, but we know it's not going to work out in their favour ultimately, so yeah, I don't need to go into any of it. But yeah, this is a much more encouraging Jack now with something to do, something to fight for. Going back to that great Teach speech last episode that I truly believe inspired him, he's suggesting a massive show of force with all the crews. But yeah, a certain someone is ahead of the game, unfortunately, as already discussed. But yeah, Featherstone remarks that Flint is still missing, and Jack says that he'll lead it. Look me in the face and tell me you doubt it. Jack's talking a good game, and yeah, I hate that the timing of everything just doesn't end up working out for him here, and just miscommunications and things like that. Otherwise, yeah, maybe they might have been able to hold out, but then again, you know, the Walrus crew are in some more kind of peril, so maybe they wouldn't anyway. And so, yeah, next, you know, again, another scene that ultimately we don't need to go into any specifics of, but obviously a great moment in here. But yeah, nothing really comes of all what they're talking about, but it is, like I say, just another great Jack scene. So yeah, he's got the leaders in a meeting and he's laying out plans, you know, for a defence. Him and Vane just doing a bit of back and forth with these guys. You know, Flint's name comes up again. And yeah, Vane is getting a bit frustrated by the captains needing so much convincing and, you know, the sort of hand-holding he's having to do considering all they've done. And yeah, this will obviously come up again later in the episode. This idea of loyalty, you know, meaning different things to different people. Important to men like him and Jack, you know, proper pirates. But Teach's words last episode have sat with him as well, I think, a little bit. So that's also maybe on the back of his mind. And yeah, Teach will bring it up again with him in a moment. Yeah, it's unfortunate as Jack does set in motion, like I say, a really good thing here. But yeah, just a set of miscommunications is just going to get the Ranger crew on a different path, unfortunately. So yeah, safe to say the men at the meeting aren't convinced, and you know, it gets a bit unruly. So Jack utters, I feel I say this every time for every new Jack line, but this might be my favourite Jack line of the whole show. He goes, "I never approved of Eleanor Guthrie's harsh mothering of this place. I believe my record of that issue is in good order. That being said, if you're going to behave like children, then I will be your daddy." The way it cuts to, you know, just before we get to see Anne and Vane's reaction is a shame. I would have really loved to have seen their reaction to that. Maybe everyone just kept corpsing, so, you know, there's no way you're keeping a straight face, you know, first time with that one, you know, surely. That aside, but Jack's speaking well. Maybe best and most authoritative he's ever been, is, you know, in front of a crowd like that. He's convincing, he's firm. Again, I hate how this is all going to play out, you know, in moments, but for the complete turnaround from those first couple of episodes where he was slacking, Jack Rackham is going to get himself an MVP nomination for this great turnaround. So yeah, great call to arms from Jack, but then who should enter but Edward Teach, ready to piss on their parade truly. He just announces Flint is dead, and before they commit to anything, they'll be doing it without their fearless leader. Says he may be able to offer an alternative, himself in Flint's place. By his speech and his dreams for him and Vane last episode, you can see why he's doing this. It is very self-serving, rather than a particular loyal answer to arms, for a cause he cares little about, but he explains it well. You know, once alone with Vane, he makes his proposal. He's prepared to step into Flint's shoes, unify the men, defend the harbour on the condition that once it's done, Vane agrees to join him in sailing away from here for good. Vane says, "You do this all, you know, despite no care for Nassau, just for my partnership," and Teach simply says yes. You know, he knows Vane is loyal and he won't run or go back on his word on Jack, so, you know, he's offering the chance for him to achieve it all. Yeah, Vane not liking, I don't think that Teach has made him a bit here, you know, I think because, you know, Teach is ultimately right. Because Vane is restless, he is going to waste a bit in this current situation. You know, he's lost his edge a little bit, as discussed last episode. And yeah, Teach points out the situation, you know, it's made him a slaveholder here, a man forced to beg his peers to join him in battle. He says there's not a man in the world who would lift a finger in your defence, yet you would die in theirs. Yeah, a sad truth that we're going to learn all too soon. And Vane says that Jack would, and he has. And Teach says of course he has. How does someone like him survive in this place without sticking to someone stronger? Damn, Teach really not for Jack at this point, but it only makes their late season scenes together, you know, and next season's all the better. But yeah, Teach says loyalty is how a dog survives, not a man. Not sure I completely agree with this one, but you know, loyalty has got to come with some caveats sometimes, is more the point I think he's making here, I think. But yeah, Vane's confused, you know, and he asks, why now? After 8 years, why suddenly is my partnership so valuable to you? And Teach had me feeling, you know, this was going to get a little bit fruity first time I watched it. He says 8 years, 9 wives. And then there's a bit of a pause. And he says, no sons, while looking to Vane. So I was like, oh, okay. I was like, where's he going with this? But yeah, you know, no sons. He simply says, there it is, yes or no. Yeah, so much love for this son figure, you know, for Teach. So much so that on parting, he's just never been able to settle, you know, so he's laid it all out on the line. Of course, more to learn as well in terms, you know, with Teach and his health. But of course, that idea of, you know, perfect timing coming up again. Because either way, Vane is going to be left with no choice in a moment. So yeah, a little bit later, and Jack and Anne are watching Vane working on the fort, and Jack informs her Vane's leaving with Teach once this is over, and Anne's heard. I like to think she's there to check on Jack, you know, in this little moment. And Jack says it bothers him, but he doesn't know why. And she says, because you give a shit what he thinks of you. She says he wouldn't be alone, you know, plenty of men done stupid shit just to hear Charles Vane call them a proper pirate. She then jokes, it might be you're the only one who made a career out of it. And Jack has a little laugh at that. It's really short, but yeah, I really like this little Anne and Jack scene. You know, as I say, I like to think that she's gone to check on him, you know, knowing he'd be bothered and it will be on his mind. And yeah, not much to add really to it, but it's just a nice, comfortable kind of chat between them both, as opposed to what it's been for a little while this season. Both this and the previous scene make me pine, you know, for a Ranger Crew prequel show. Really do, you know, Jack and Anne's early years, joining Vane, Blackbeard and Vane's history. You know, so many amazing stories we could have been told. But yeah, that would have been something amazing. So yeah, after Woods-Rogers' fleet has been spotted, we're obviously on this side of that now. Preparations for the battle begin. But of course, as discussed, it's Hornigold that turns up on the beach. On seeing him, Teach knows that they can't fire on him. It would be too much of a split with the men on the island. You know, and he sort of says, whatever is about to happen, it's going to happen. There's no stopping it now. So yeah, Hornigold, you know, he reads Woods-Rogers' proposal. Vane, Anne and Jack are watching on from afar on the fort. I won't read it through, you know, we know the gist. Renounce piracy, fully complete pardon, regardless of past deeds, yada yada. Everyone that is, bar one. Eleanor, you petty. No way, you know, that was in the original proposal without some sway for her. Just no way. But yeah, Hornigold announces a bounty of 10,000 for Vane, alive or dead. Of course, Vane can only watch as everyone just slowly, you know, you're like, for a little while, you're like, come on, someone say something, come on, someone stand up. Go on, Jacob Garrett, go on. No, they all lay down their arms, lay down their guns, and everyone begins to take their pardons, confirming exactly what Teach was saying about loyalty, and now Vane is seemingly a dead man walking. And yeah, we're of course getting to those further developments next episode. Yeah, that is a great episode, but yeah, I will not take up much more of your time, so yeah, let's get into the MVP award.
Last item.
So yeah, we have Billy Bones, John Silver and Jack Rackham duking it out this week. 3 very worthy winners, but one is just nudging ahead for me, doing a bit more to be worthy of that win. I have John Silver as this episode's MVP. Yeah, the hunger is messing with his mind a bit, but he's still holding on to the, you know, as much humanity as he can in the moment, and he takes a massive gamble that, had it not gone to plan on sort of both counts, would have been the end for them all. So yeah, Silver, he's finally off that 1 mark, he's on 2 now. I knew, you know, he would start getting in the nominations at least more this season, where he's really starting to take shape as a great and formidable character for me. So yeah, John Silver win this episode. So yeah, I think that's everything sort of covered, so I will be back very soon with episode 4. Thank you guys for watching, take care, and I will see you on the flip side. Peace out, bye.